Hey everyone, so today in this video I'm going to show you how to generate snapshot while hovering on the video progress bar. So this is the final build. So what's gonna happen here is as soon as I hover on this progress bar, which you can see down here, it's gonna show me the snapshot of that particular time I'm hovering on. So what I mean to say is, for example, if I hover anywhere over here, so you can see it's showing me the seconds and the snapshot of the part I'm trying to hover at. So for example, I go to 12 seconds, it's going to show me exactly what the content is at 12 seconds. If I move forward, and you can see the image keeps changing because it shows me what each second of that video is going to contain. So yeah, this is what we are going to build, and yeah, so let's get on with it. Okay, so this is the default setup for our application. So basically I've just cleaned up some files and I've only kept the app.js and the index.js and their respective CSS files, as you can see here. And in the app, I'm just rendering this video preview text. So basically currently all we get is this, a video preview text displayed on top. And so let's get on with it. So initially what we need to do is we need to render this video component and this text we see on top. So let's do that. So basically, first of all, I'm going to remove this text and I'm going to create a video preview component. So we can just go to src. We can drop a new folder and call it video preview, and within that I'll just add this index.js JSX, and then I will just use rafce, that's the snippet, to add this basically the functional component. So I'll rename this to video preview. These are pretty basic stuff. And then I'm just going to call this component right over here, video preview, and it's automatically also going to import it for me. Right, there you go, there's the import, there's video preview, and within that we have this text video preview. So let's just check if that's working fine. All right, so we are good to go with the next steps. Okay, so I'm gonna start by removing this video preview text, and I'll just add a class name over here. I'll just add a class name over here and I'll name it wrapper, and after that I'll add an h2 since we need that text, and I'll just copy that text from here, generate snapshot. I'll place it right over here, and I'll also give a class name to the h2. Let's give it something like heading text, heading text. All right, and then let's create a CSS file for this. We'll name it video preview.css. What's wrong with my typing today? Video preview.css, and then we're gonna import this, import video preview.css. all right, so now let's first add the styling for the heading text. Okay, so for the heading text, all we need is a color, which was white. This will change the text color to white, and then we need a font size of somewhere around 28px, and then after that we need a background color of black, and then a border radius of around 10px, and after that all we need to give is a little bit of padding. This will add a little bit of spacing around the text to make it look better. So let's just check what we've got. I'll just go here. All right, as you can see, we have this generate snapshot while hovering with the background, but as you can see over here, here we have this all centered and the width is fitting the text. So let's also add that. So in order to add that, we will be requiring to add some styles to the wrapper. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to center out everything. So display flex, and I'm going to keep a flex direction of column because the video component is going to come under it. And I'm going to align items center, justify content center, and then I'm just going to add a total height of 100 vh and a background color, the background basically, and I want to give it a linear gradient of I guess red was the first one. It was kind of reddish, so the value for that is this, and a little bit of purplish color, so the value for that is 9198E5. All right, so let's just save this and see what we get. Alright, cool. So this was the exact same background as this. Now we just need to add the video component right under the text. So I'm going to create a video component right now. Actually, we are going to be adding the video element, not the component. So first, let's just create a div to wrap the video element. Let's give it a class name of something like video container. There you go. And then let's add the video element within it. Alright, so the video element usually takes an src tag, and along with that you can pass certain properties like controls. This will just add all the default controls for the HTML video player, like the play button, progress bar, mute, and all that. Then I'm going to give a width to the video, and that width would be something like 800. And I'm also gonna add preload auto. These are nothing but just default properties you can add. And I'm also going to add cross origin equals to anonymous. Now this is going to be needed to you later on, and I'll explain you why this is required. So let's just import. So you can put a link over here if you want. You can just, I'll drop some links down in the description. You can add all those links over here, or you can just download a video and keep it somewhere in your folders and then just import it directly. I have a video downloaded, as in I created it, so I have that video with myself. So I'm just gonna, I had it already kept within the assets folder created over here, so I'm just gonna import it here and use it in my src. So let's get the video I'm talking about. So that's present in the assets. Let's go to the assets and then dummy video .mp4, and then I'm just gonna take this video and I'm gonna place it right here. All right, and now let's just check what we have. What do we have? All right, so here we have our video, which has a width of 800. So basically, yeah, it pretty much looks like this, and it also has these controls. Obviously, you must have noticed this bar over here is different, and yeah, we will get to that later as well. So now what we need to do is we can add some styling to the video container, I guess. I'm just gonna add a display of flex and a flex direction of column, and then an align items center, and then I'm gonna do justify content center just to keep everything centered within the div. And I don't need to add anything more. I guess this should be enough. It's just it wouldn't give us significant change. It's just going to ensure everything's centered within the div and whatever I add after this. So yeah, all right, so we are done with the UI, as we can see here. Now we just gotta work on the functionalities. So yeah, let's get on ahead with that. Okay, so now before we go into the functionality, I first have to explain you how we are going to approach this, like how are we going to build this. So first of all, let me go to the actual build. So you can see over here that when I hover on this, I'm getting the image, right, of that particular moment in time. So the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out that whenever we hover on anywhere in the progress bar, how do we generate the number of seconds? How do we generate the second we are on, right? So that's the first thing we need to figure out. For example, I'm going here, it's 21. So how am I getting that 21? The number of seconds isn't provided to us by default whenever we hover over the progress bar. So we have to find a way to find the number of seconds where we are hovering on. That's the first thing we need to do. After that, we have to make use of something called canvases. Now, if you don't know too much about canvases, let me know. I will explain in depth about that in another video. But whatever I use regarding canvases in this video, I will definitely drop a link in the description explaining the parts I'm going to use if you do not have too much idea about it. But we're not going to use canvas heavily, and whatever I use, I'm going to try to explain you as much as I can. So basically, why we are going to use canvases is because once we figure out the number of seconds, basically the second we are hovering on, what we have to do is we have to pass that number of second to our video, as in our video has a current time property. So basically we have to take our video to that particular current time, and by using canvases we are going to generate that snapshot. So I know the second part might be a little difficult for you to understand, so we will go ahead and we will solve this and you'll get a much better idea on what I'm talking about. So let's get on with it right now. So first of all, there is also one more thing we need to keep in mind, and that's that this progress bar we see, this is defaultly provided by the video element, but we need to get rid of this and create our own custom progress bar. And why is that? Because when we hover over this, I need to extract the number of seconds, right? But in the built-in progress bar provided by the video element, there is no such event listener attached, like on mouse hover or on mouse over, on mouse out. These are event listeners which are generally attached to any React element. But since this progress bar is attached to this video element, so we cannot directly, we do not have any way to get this progress bar itself. We have a way to get the entire video element, but we do not have a way to get the progress bar. And if we don't have that, then we can't even get the mouse over properties for this or the on hover properties for this particular progress bar. So for that reason we will have to create our own progress bar, and in that, since it will be a normal React element, it will have all the event listeners that we require. So yeah, so first of all we need to focus on removing this progress bar. So how do we do that? How do we remove the default progress bar provided? So we just have to go to the CSS file that we have, and then we need to access the video element property, and then we can access the specific media controls by using this, by webkit media controls timeline. These are things you can just find out by googling or on Stack Overflow. So this basically allows us to access the particular controls, allows us to basically access the styling of the particular controls of the media element, the progress bar to be precise in this case. So I'm just gonna add a visibility hidden to this because we don't want this to be visible and we want to add our own progress bar to this. So now let's just see if the progress bar are actually hidden. Right, so here you can see the default button and time and all these controls are visible, but the progress bar is hidden. Whenever I hover, it's not visible. So now our next task is to add the progress bar. So to add the progress bar, what we are going to use is there's something called an input element with a type range. That's what you're going to use. And why did I choose that? Because I'm going to show you what that exactly does. See, input type my range properties. You can go and search this over anywhere. So it's basically going to give us something like this, and this is almost very identical to what we require. We require something like this. This is the main build project, and what input type range gives us is something like this, and it gives us minimum and maximum properties. So here we can just add the number of seconds, the minimum seconds of the video, which will be 0, and the maximum will be the total duration of the video, and the value will be the current value the video is at. So basically it will be the current number of seconds the video is playing at. I hope you get what I'm saying. I'll still show you and walk you through what I mean. So basically this is what we require, the input type range, and this input type range has different CSS selectors which I'm going to use to style this into something like this progress bar, the red knobby along with this grayish bar similar to YouTube. So basically to make things faster, I'm going to show you how I'm going to add this input progress bar, and then I'm just going to paste the styles which I have so that we can go ahead faster, and I'm going to explain you on a high level all the styling. So first let's just add the input with the type my range. So basically I'm just going to add this input element. We can add it under below the video element, and I'm going to call type range. So after that, so let's just see what this gives us for now. Alright, see, you can see over here we are getting this range which is similar to the progress bar I was talking about. So now let's just style this and add some first of all I'm just gonna add a class name to this. So the class name I'm going to add is, let's just call it amount progress. And then after that we will make use of all the properties the input type range provides, which I just showed you a few minutes back. So basically we can add something like the value, which is going to indicate the position of the position of the knob of the progress bar. So currently we don't have anything for that, so in fact let's just leave this for now. I will add this when I add the functionalities. So class name is there. What else can we add? We can add this property step and assign it to any. This just indicates that the progress bar can take any decimal point, so that we can get a more exact whenever we pass the value, it can be more, to the point. It can be more exact, so that when the second is 60.254, this progress bar will accept that 0.254. So yeah, that's what this does. And then since we have already given this a class name, I'm just going to paste some styling in my video preview.css to make it look like the one which we have. So basically now I just added all these style for the amount progress class which we have. So here's all the style added. I'll also explain you what styles I've added in brief, but first let's see what we get after adding the styles. This is what we get, the small progress bar. It's pretty similar to this in design, but it's just smaller, and also it doesn't have this red color behind the knobby. For example, over here when I play the video, you can see a red color is displayed. So we also need to add that. So that's that. So how did I add this? So basically in the documentation, if you can read, then to add your custom styling to the input type range, you first have to provide appearance none, so that you can disable all the pre-given styles for the input my range. After that you can add all your custom styles. So these are just pretty basic properties. Bottom 20px has been added so that I could push this progress bar on top to the video. And apart from that, I've declared variables over here, so that because these values will be reused, so it will be easier to remember them. And then there's this these properties. These properties you can just read about it anywhere in the documentation. Also provide the link. So the amount progress has these properties for the Safari, Firefox, Chrome and Safari browser individually. I've also added the comments so that you guys don't get confused. So basically you can remove this comment, it's not necessary. So basically in this allows us to add the background for the runnable track. The runnable track is basically this entire part. So basically here I have added the background of gray color, and there's height and position relative given, and this is basically the same thing almost for the range track, but it almost has the same properties as this, but this is for a different browser, so we just have to modify it a little bit. We just have to mention this because this is how we tackle it for Firefox, and this keyword is used to tackle it for Safari. And now for this, for Chrome and Safari, we have used this before attribute. This before attribute has this background color red basically. Now when this will come into use, currently it's not showing red, but how it will come into play is something that I'll show you while we go on writing the functionalities. And then the most important part over here is this seek before width variable. So this seek before width is initialized with 0, but then this will keep increasing dynamically, and it will be used in this width. So basically the width of this which you see, this will keep increasing dynamically based on what we pass over here. And how we are going to pass a dynamic value to this is something I'm going to show you when we go on writing the functions. So yeah, so this width will basically dynamically keep increasing when we do that. So this will move one by one by one by one. And then these are nothing but the same styles we've added, but for the Firefox. And then after that we go on to Chrome and Safari for the thumb. The thumb is nothing but this knobby that you see over here. So basically we are also adding our custom styles to that. We are adding WebKit appearance none first of all, so that we can remove the default styling, and then we are adding our own properties. So we are doing the same thing for the other browsers, Firefox, Chrome, Safari. While dragging we are just adding this scale 1.2. so what this basically means is when I drag this, it's gonna slightly increase in size, if you can see, by a scale of 1.2. so that is what that means. So yeah, and the same thing's being done for Firefox as well. So this is all that there is to styling. It's pretty simple. I'm also gonna add all the code that we have so that you can also copy paste this directly. It's pretty self-explanatory, not a big deal. So yes, so now let's now since we have this created, now let's try to move on to the next part. The next part would be to making this width full and adding the functionalities. Okay, so to add the width of the progress bar, it's pretty simple. We just have to go to the amount progress class which we created and just specify a width over here. The width, we can give it something like 780px, since the overall width of the video is 800px. And we just want some spacing on the left and right side, and we can also give it a cursor of pointer. Alright, so let's check how this looks like. Alright, cool. Now you can see the width is completely similar to this, the real build. So now we can go on and move on to the functionalities. So first of all, I'm gonna go to the input, and I'm going to slowly start adding all the references that we need to attach to this input and this video as well, since by attaching those references we can use those properties that the input and video provide, such as, you know, the input.current.max or the video.current time. So let's go on and do that. So first of all, I'm going to add a ref, but before that I just have to kind of import ref over here. And since we are going to use state as well, I'm going to import all of them. Along with that, use effect too. I hope you guys are aware of what these three do. So, and then after this, I'm just going to attach a reference to my input, and I'm going to name it something like progress ref maybe. And I'll just initialize that progress ref over here. I'll do a const progress ref equals to use ref, and I'm going to initiate it with null. And then I'm also going to we also need the value property over here, but the value property over here will come from the video's current time. So we also need to add the reference for the video, and I'm going to call it something like video ref. Video ref is going to be nothing but use ref, and I'm going to initialize it with null. And then we can also attach a reference over here to the video. I'm just going to add the ref somewhere over here, and it's going to point to the video ref. And now we are going to start adding the functions that we require, the events, and we are going to start adding the events for the element, and we are going to attach the functions that we require. So our first goal is to start moving this knobby on the progress bar when we hit play. So now when we hit play, nothing happens, the video goes on, but this is not functional, this is not moving, nor is this red color there behind there. So let's go and add all that. So what I'm gonna do is, in the input, I'm going to start adding the on change property. The on change property can just point to a function named change range, and then I'm going to add a value property, and the value is going to point to something later, and I'm going to add that along the way. And in the video element, I'm going to add all the functions, all the functions that we would require for now. So there's something called the loaded metadata event. So this basically just if you pass a function to this, then it just basically says if the video has basically mounted, if the video has loaded or not initially. So we will need this. I'm going to add something called check metadata. It's a function that we are going to create, and this will do nothing but just set a state to true if the video has loaded. And then I'm going to add another event provided by the video element itself called on playing, and in here I'm going to set another function on playing, and then I'm going to use another event on pause, and over here also I'm going to set another function on pause. And after that we slowly have to start populating these functions. So let's just go and create these functions first of all. So const check metadata is equal to, I'm going to create an arrow function over here, and I'm going to do the same for all the other two functions. So I'm gonna go down to on playing, and then on pause. And we also need the change range function, so I'm going to add that over here as well, the change range. All right, so now let's go ahead and start populating these functions to add their functionality. So what we need first of all is we can basically add a use effect on top. I'm going to go ahead and add that. This use effect will basically load our video in. I'm going to pass an empty dependency because you want it to run once when the component mounts. So what I'm gonna do here is in our check metadata function, I'm going to create a state over here first of all. So I'm going to name it is metadata. Sorry, the spelling's bit wrong. And then set is metadata. All right, then I'm going to set it to false because initially metadata hasn't been loaded, so it's going to be set to false. Then I'm going to take this set is metadata, and then I'm going to put it in check metadata, and I'm going to set it to true. So basically on the function within onloaded metadata only runs when the video has actually loaded. That's what this event does, right? So and if you want to read about these events, you can just easily go over here. You can just click on video element properties. You can click over here audio video DOM references, and you can read about all these events over here and then add them. So you can see over here there's loaded metadata fires when the browser has loaded metadata for the audio video. So that's very self-explanatory. And then basically now this is going to, once the video loads, set is metadata is going to become true. And then what I can do over here is I can just add is metadata, so that once the component mounts, it's going to load, but then once the video also mounts, it's going to go over here and it's going to run everything that's there inside this again. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to get the number of seconds first of all, and we are going to get that from the video ref property that we attached, from the video reference that we attached over here. So how are we going to get that? It's pretty simple. Video ref dot current. When we do video ref dot current, it allows us to access all the properties of that element, and then I'm going to get the property duration. So as you can see here, we get this duration property over here. I'm going to just search for it. Right, so here in the video element you can see there's duration property. It returns the length of the current audio or video in seconds, and that's exactly what we need. So we are going to take these seconds, and after that we are going to create another state over here. We are going to name it something like duration, and then we are going to set duration, and we are going to initiate this with nothing but 0. 0, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add duration to seconds because we don't want to be using this every time, so we'll just add it over here. So set duration will have the number of seconds, and then I'm going to use my progress ref, the reference which we attached to the progress bar, and I'm going to take out its max property, as I showed you before that the ref has a max min property, value property. I'm going to get the max property and I'm going to set it to seconds. So this is pretty self-explanatory. So the minimum will be 0 and the max will be seconds. The max will be the total number of seconds of the video, right? So that's pretty self-explanatory. We can add the min over here to 0. It anyway assumes that it's going to take 0, so we don't even have to add that. And after that, all we need to do is so basically now we have created the base. So now next what we need to do is we can start populating these functions that we have. So on we can create another function, another state, and name it on playing or is playing, I guess. Yeah, is playing, set is playing, and I'm going to set it initially to false because initially our video isn't playing, right? Then I'm gonna go to the on playing event, which is using the function on playing, and this is always going to run when the video starts playing. So I'm going to set is playing to true over here, and when it pauses I'm going to set is playing to false over here. So that's pretty simple. Now the thing we need to keep in mind is when we are playing, we want this thing over here to start moving, this knobby over here to start moving. So how are we gonna do that? So let's go to our code. So on playing, what we can do is we can create another function called while playing. All right, so there's our function while playing, and then let's just create this function somewhere on top. Let's just create it over here, const while playing. I'm gonna create the arrow function again. Yeah, now on while playing, first of all, what we have to do is we need to check if our progress.current is progress.current and video.current are not null. So we are going to go ahead and do just that. If this is not equal to null and our video ref.current is not equal to null, because obviously if it's null, then there's no point in using these properties and trying to manipulate them, right? Because this in while playing function, these are the properties we need to manipulate. So if they are not null, then I'm going to access the progress ref.current dot value, and the value is nothing but this over here, and I'm going to set it to we need to set it to nothing but the video ref dot current time. So the video has a current time property as well, just like it has a duration property, it also has a current time property. So we are going to change the progress ref current value to the current time, right? And while we are playing, so whatever the time of the video is, the progress ref will take that value while we are playing the video. And then I can add another function. I can create another function named change player current time, and in this function I'm going to show you what we do. Basically in this function, what we want to do is we want this width to keep on changing, right? So in this function, we are going to add some code which is going to do this, and it's going to change this width, and at the same time it's going to it's going to add this background color over there as well. I think the background color is already added in the CSS, but basically that function is going to make this width go forward, that the property we had set seek width over here in CSS, as you can see over here. So we are going to get this property in that function, and we are going to increase the width dynamically whenever the video is playing. So let's go and see how we do that. So basically I'm just going to go to my index file over here. I'm going to create the change player current time function. Let's do that, change player current time. Gonna make it an arrow function as well. And then in change player current time, as I said, we are going to tackle the seek width constant we had added in the CSS file. So what we're going to do is we are going to do progress ref dot current dot style dot set property, and we are going to use the seek width which we had. I'm going to take it from here directly. So basically this just says we are going to access the progress ref style property and set the value of seek width to something like we have to set the value of that to this particular equation I'm gonna write. So it's gonna be nothing but progress ref dot current dot value divided by the duration, and we are going to multiply this whole thing with, we are going to add it in brackets, and we're going to multiply this whole thing with 100, because this is going to be set to percentages instead of px. So basically whenever the change player current time occurs, it's going to check for the seek width, and it's going to take the current value, divide by the duration, and multiply the whole thing by 100 and send it as a percentage to the video, to the width, and then accordingly that knobby is going to start moving. The width of it is going to start increasing one by one. So I hope you get what I mean here. So I'm just gonna save this file, And then in our while playing, do we have to do something? Right, in our while playing also we need to do something. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to define an animation reference over here. Use ref. So what this animation ref sorry, I just got the spelling wrong. So what this animation ref will do is basically it's going to call something called request animation frame. Now what request animation frame does is it helps us animate it basically helps us animate something. So over here, as you can see, this is the final build. I'm just going to mute this site. So in the final build, whenever I hit play, you can see how this is animating, right? How smoothly this is moving. So that is happening with the help of request animation frame. So what I'm gonna do next is I have this animation ref declared over here, and I'm going to go to my while playing. After we change the width, we want to add the animation so that the width moves with that animation. So all I'm gonna do over here is something like I'm going to access that animation ref dot current, and I'm going to equate it to the request animation frame, and I'm going to pass the while playing function back again, so that while the video is playing, it can constantly call this function. It can again change add the progress bars value to the current time, and at the same time keep moving this width, and while continuously adding this animation along the way. So that's why it's recursively gonna call this, so that because the video is continuously gonna play, right? So these three things need to be happening simultaneously, so that the animation stays maintained, the width keeps on moving, and the current time also gets set on the value of the progress bar. So yeah, I hope you understood what I'm trying to say here. And now after that, all we need to do is we need to also populate this change range that we see here, right? So but one thing we can do is, since we are requesting the animation while playing, so when we pause the video, we need to cancel the animation. So how do we do that? We basically use something called cancel animation provided to us, and then we call the animation ref and dot current, because we want to cancel this current animation which is attached to this animation dot current. So on pausing, this is what's going to happen. And then we need to tackle the change range function next. Change range is basically going to happen every time the value changes. So every time the value of the input range changes, right? So we are on playing, we are changing the value. On that time, this is going to be triggered. So what can we add over here? So what we can do over here is we can do something like video ref dot current time equals to the progress ref dot current dot value. So what this is doing is basically when the value of the progress bar is changing, we are also taking the current time of the video to the progress bar's current value. So basically the video and progress bar are staying in sync and going at the same rate, and they're staying at the same number of seconds. So, and after this, what we can do is, since we are doing the change range, so basically this range is going to keep on changing. We need to call this change player current time function over here, because this will keep moving the width along, keep changing the width as whenever the video keeps on moving. So basically what this entirely means is that whenever I click somewhere over here, right? So when I click somewhere over here, it's gonna use this change range function. It's going to directly send the current, it's gonna directly attach the video dot current time to the current value which we clicked on, right? And when that happens, it's also going to call this function so that the width can be set. It's like all this width can be set until here. So that is what this means basically. I hope you understood that. So now I think most of the things have been added. Check metadata has been added as well, and I suppose we also have to add something over here. Yeah, I guess we can add this over here. We can just since this value will be nothing but the current time of the video. Yes, so we can add the current time. Since whenever the input is moving, it will move based on the video, right? So we can add this simple statement over here, this simple line over here. Whenever whatever the video dot current time is, we'll just set it to the value. So this will allow the value to be equal to that particular current time every time or every second basically. So now let's save this, and I think we are good to go. Let's go to our code. This is the original build. We are going to go to our build and we are going to refresh. I hope this is muted. The video is muted, yeah. And then I'm going to play. All right, as you can see on playing, the knobby is moving in such a smooth animation, and you can see this red color over here. And let's see what happens when we click somewhere over here. Right, see, you could see this move right directly over here. Now this is happening exactly because of this change range that we added. So whenever there is a on change, the current time directly goes to the progress.current.value, which is the value we clicked on over here. So we have this much setup now. We have this red color background coming, this moving smoothly. And now the next thing that we would need to add is, while hovering over here, we need to display the snapshot of that particular time. So as I discussed, to do that, first of all, we have to find a way to get the number of seconds while we hover anywhere on the progress bar. And then once we get the number of seconds, we can generate a snapshot from the video for that particular number of seconds using canvas. So yeah, let's move on ahead and see how to do that. Okay, so first of all, there's one thing I want to note. Like when I hover on this, we get this particular image, particular snapshot. So we also need to create an image element to render this snapshot. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right underneath this input, and I'm going to create a div. This div is going to be the container of the entire snapshot. So I'm going to name it something like snapshot container. And then within this div, I am going to add an image tag. This image tag will also have a certain class name because we need to style it to look small and be on top of the progress bar. So we are going to call this something like snapshot image, and then I'm going to go down, and then there's the time which is below it. So over here I'm going to give this a class name of maybe snapshot time, and here I have to render a variable. Let's call this variable as hovered second. So now this will basically this will display the hovered second. When we hover on the progress bar, whatever time we get, that seconds will be displayed over here right under the image. So basically this time that you see under that image, that's going to be the hovered second, which we need to find. So I'm just going to declare this variable on top, maybe, since I don't want to declare this as a state because it's going to cause a lot of re-render. So I'm just going to add this over here, and we are going to populate this, and then it's going to be added over here. So then after this, the image requires an SRC. This SRC is going to come from the canvas after we draw out the particular image. And then apart from that, the next part would be, all right, I think this seems fine. Yeah, one more thing, I can add a reference to this because the reference to this would be required, since we are going to use this to populate the image in the canvas. So yeah, I'm going to give a reference, and I'm going to call it something called snapshot ref, and then I'm going to go up ahead and declare it as well. So const snapshot equals to use ref, and I'm going to initiate this with null. So cool, we have the snapshot ref which is pointing to this particular container. Now we can later, why I did this reference is because later on we are going to use this container and style it. So we are going to basically use the properties that this provides, snapshot.current.style, to add a styling to this container as per a calculation that we need to do in the future, and you will get a clearer picture on this as we move ahead. So after this, now the next thing we need to do is generate this particular image, so while we hover on the progress bar. So let's see how do we do that. I'll add the class names, the styling for the class names later. First, let's generate the image. So next thing that I can do is maybe I can probably write. So in my input type range, basically I need to add two events. So that event would be nothing but when I hover on this, you see, when I hover on this, let me go to the original build. When I hover on this, I am basically entering the progress bar, and when I leave, the image goes away. So there are two events that it's provided to us on every element. On mouse, one of them is on mouse move, and one of them is on mouse out. On mouse move will detect when our mouse is moving on the progress bar, and on mouse out says when we are away from the progress bar. So let's go to our build, and then I'm going to add these in the input type range. So basically I'm just going to say on mouse, you see all these events that React provides. So I'm just going to add on mouse move, and I'm going to give it a function. I'm going to assign a function to it, function reference basically. I'm going to call it on slider hover, and then another function, another event on mouse out, and I'm going to give it another, assign it to another function, and we can say it on outside slider. All right, so now let's focus on trying to create these two functions. So basically I'm going to go down here, I'm going to create an arrow function for the same, and I'm going to do the same for the other one, and the name of that function was on outside slider. All right, on outside slider. All right, so now one thing we can do is, this needs to be dynamic, right? Because whenever the image SRC needs to be dynamic, because whenever we hover on the progress bar, it's going to give us different snapshots. So this needs to keep on changing. So this needs to be a variable. Let's call this snapshot, or snapshots basically, and then we need to create a state for this. So let's go ahead and do that. So const snapshots, basically I copied it, so snapshots, set snapshots, and initially I'm going to declare it as an empty string. All right, and then this is going to be populated later on using canvas. So let's see how to do that. So set snapshot, and we have this over here, snapshots. So now what we are going to do is we are gonna go and try to write our on slider hover function. Let's just add both these functions right underneath so that you guys don't get confused. All right, so one thing we can do is, whenever we move outside the slider, you see when I'm on the slider I get the image, when I move out I don't get anything. So what we can do is, we can set this, we can come write this function easily. All this has to do is set snapshots empty string. All right, and in this function we'll be adding the snapshot. So let's go on to the slider hover. So first of all, we need to find a way to get the hover time. Now to do that, I'm going to write an equation. So for this you have to be knowing different properties of JavaScript, such as the event.clientX, event.offset left, what they do. If you're not so aware of that, I can make a video on that. Just let me know down in the comment section, or just for the time being I can provide a description for the same, basically a link in the description for the same. So all we have to do is just the following. I'll be declaring this variable hover time, and I will equate this to the following equation: e.clientX minus e.target.offset left, and then I will just divide this whole thing with nothing. I'll basically divide it from here. We'll be dividing it with the e.target.client width, which is nothing but the width of the video, and then we'll multiply this entire thing with the duration of the video. That is nothing but e.current video ref.current the duration. And since this is going to come in decimal form, so I would just want to add this to fixed property provided by JavaScript and pass in 2 over here, so that I only get until 2 decimal places. So all right, this should allow me to get the number of seconds. And why, and I know you guys might find a little difficult to understand this, but you need to know what all this means. You can look this up or just drop down in the comment section. I'll make a video on what all this would mean. Basically, client X is kind of the distance of the x-axis distance from the viewport of the screen, and offset left is the distance, x distance from the relative div that it's wrapped within, or basically whichever div it's in position relative with. And client width is just the video width. All right, so now once this is calculated, we also need to add a condition over here. It's nothing but if hover time is less than 0, then we want the hover time to always stay 0. Now this is required because sometimes this hover time will give us the seconds, right? So sometimes it goes negative and we don't want that. And when does this go negative? This goes negative when, suppose if I'm hovering my mouse like this, I will get the particular seconds for wherever I hover. But sometimes, in some cases, what happens when I move my mouse behind, it goes to the negative side, and that is something we don't want. So what happens is, over here in this position, I'll still be at the progress bar, but it might show me a negative value, and that negative value could basically not show me the snapshot for the 0th second. So what I'll do is, whenever it goes to negative, I'm just gonna change it back to 0, so I always get the 0th second no matter whenever I'm starting from here. So after that, what I have to do is, I can just the hovered second I had declared over here, I can basically equate that with the hover time. So now basically we have our hover seconds, and this is being passed over here, so we should be able to see the hover seconds. But before that, there is something important that I want to discuss. So what's gonna happen here is, to the canvas we are gonna pass the video. We are gonna basically pass the video with the time we are hovering on. So as we know, this video ref has a .current time property, right? So this current time takes the video to this current time to whichever time it's set, the video goes to that particular current time. So what we need to do right now is, basically we need to take this video to this hovered second time. So basically we need to set the video.current time to the hovered second. So what that does is, whenever I hover over here, suppose this is the 15 second, so the video ref.current time will be equal to the 15 second. So what that means is, we can pass the 15th second of this video to our canvas and extract a snapshot of that 15th second. I hope you get what I meant. But there's a catch here. If I pass this, if I write this, suppose if I write video ref dot current time equals to the hovered seconds, this is going to do a problem for me. What's gonna happen is, when I do this, it's going to move this video to that second as well. It's going to generate a snapshot for that second, but as well as move this video to that second. That's not what we want. We want the video to be wherever it is, and we only want a snapshot for the part we're hovering on. We don't want the video to also move to that time. So what we can do is, we can create another video element, and on that video element we can attach another reference, and we can change that references, that second video reference current time to the hovered second, and then we can pass that video to the canvas, get that image from that video, which will be the same as the video ref, because they both will have the same video src. And then we can, based on that, we can just populate, we can basically use the canvas to extract that image and convert it to a URL, which I'll show how it's done, and then we can pass that to the snapshot. So to show you what I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and create another second video ref. So we can just call this second video ref equals to use ref, and I'm gonna call this null over here. So what we can do right now is we need to create another video element, and this video element will be hidden because we don't want two videos to be there. This video which we add, it's only going to basically fetch us the particular image of the current time. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to declare a video over here, just a random video, and then I'm going to give this a class name. So basically I can just add a class name over here. Class name equals to second video element, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to attach that second video ref that we had right over here. Second video ref. All right, so now we need to, now if you see here, we are getting two videos. So this is something we don't want, so we can just hide this. We can go to our CSS, and in our CSS we can just go down here and we can make this display of none. So when that's done, you can see we again get only our first video element. And now what we need to do is you can see over here, as I keep hovering, the video keeps on changing, right? Now why is that happening? That's we are almost there basically. So this is happening because when I do the on slide hover, it takes me to that particular second. So this progress bar isn't moving there, but you can see the video is moving there. You can see I'm going. So basically what this means is we are getting the correct second whenever we hover on the video. So suppose I go here, it's going to stay at 0. If I go here, it's going to go to 41, it's going to go to 42, as you can see. Now what we need to do is whenever we hover, whenever we hover, we don't want to change the video over here. We want to keep the video as it is when it is at the 0th second. For example, wherever the progress bar actually is, we want the video to display that video, but when we hover, we want a tiny image to come up which shows us the snapshot for that particular second. And now this is happening because we have set the video ref.current time, and we don't want the video to actually switch. So that's why we added the second video element, right? Because we want this video to go to that particular hovered second, so that the main video element which we have stays in the second where the progress bar actually is. So I hope you're getting what I'm saying. So you can see as soon as I add second video ref over here, that's not going to happen anymore. So when I hover, you can see nothing's changing anymore because the second video element that we have, that is changing, but we are not converting that particular second into an image and generating a snapshot, so we are not able to see anything. So what I'm going to do now is we have this snapshot over here. I'm just gonna go and I'm going to use the canvas code to basically generate a snapshot. So now how is that done? So all we have to do is, now our second video ref has a current time of the hovered second, of the second we want, so of the second snapshot we want basically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a function here named shoot. Sorry, autocorrect. I'm going to make a function here shoot, and in shoot, let's make this small. In shoot, I'm gonna just pass the second video ref, right? So I want to pass this video. I want to pass this video over here, and what I can do is right over here, I'm going to create the function shoot, const shoot, right? And then this shoot will have a canvas variable, and this will call a function capture, which will pass the video. So this video refers to this second video ref dot current. We are going to pass this to canvas. We're going to pass this to capture, which is then going to equate to canvas, and then basically this canvas will be the actual canvas which we're going to draw. So this canvas has a toData URL property. What that does is, whatever image we get, we can use this toData URL property on the canvas, and that will generate the image, that will generate the URL for that image. So what we'll do is set snapshots and then canvas dot toData URL. All right, now what about this canvas? What is this canvas gonna, what is this capture video gonna return us? So let's make the function for that as well. I'm going to just write that function, capture equals this, an arrow function. And now this, you have to know canvases to understand what I'm going to type next. So for that also, if you have any doubts, you can let me know in the comments down below, and I'll make a video for canvas as well, explaining you everything. I can basically make a crash course on canvas. So what you're going to do is we're going to get the width of the video, and we are going to use something called video width, and then I'm going to get the height as well. So we'll just copy this whole thing, and the video height. After that, all we have to do is we are going to call this let canvas. We're going to define a variable canvas because this needs to be returned from here. So this canvas is going to be nothing but document dot create element, and we're going to create a canvas. All right, so now we have a canvas created. So now what's going to happen, we are going to set the width and height for that canvas. So that canvas is going to have a width of W, of which is the video's width, and it's going to have a height of H basically. So after that, we need to get the context of this canvas. So how to do that? We can just create a variable named ctx, which is going to be equal to canvas dot get context, and we are going to write 2D here. If you want to understand what all this means, I'll just put it down in the description, or you can just comment down and I'll explain you all of this in a separate tutorial for the entire canvas. So basically you'll get an overview for about the entire canvas, and you can create a lot more things after learning that. Then what we're gonna do is we are gonna use a draw image property which the canvas gives us. So we are gonna do nothing but ctx dot draw image. So whenever we get the context of this canvas in the 2D form, we can access this draw image property. So this draw image property basically draws an image from the canvas, and this draw image property takes a few parameters. The first parameter, you can see over here, if I hover, the first parameter needs to be an image, and the second parameters are the x and y, as you can see. So what I can do here is I'm going to pass the video in this case, because we are going to draw an image from the video. And remember, this video is going to be the second ref, which will be equal to the hovered second, to the second. So basically the second video will be at that hovered second, and we are going to extract the image from that video. So we are going to add the other xy properties, 0 0, and we are going to pass w and h. This is nothing but for the width and height, to set the draw image to the particular width and height. And then after that, we are going to do nothing but return the canvas. All right, so basically we are returning this canvas, which will have which will contain the image drawn from that particular video for that particular hovered second, and then we are getting it over here in canvas. And basically after that, we are converting that to a URL. That image you are basically getting over here, we're converting it to a URL and setting it in snapshot. So basically now when we hover, we should be able to see the snapshot state getting populated with the URL. So now we have already passed snapshots over here in the SRC, so we should be able to see some image. Let's see what we get here. Okay, it says, gives an error, video is not defined, 79, 80 and 85. Let's go up there. So this says video is not defined, is because we are not passing the video over here. This obviously needs to get passed, since it's getting passed from up here. Now let's see. All right, the errors seem to have gone up. So now when I hover, all right, you can see that I'm getting this number of seconds, the time basically. So every time I hover, you can see this big flash coming up. This must be because the image size is probably not correct. Let's just look into that. Basically we can just console log and check if we are getting the proper if we're getting the snapshot populated or not. So I'm just gonna write snapshot and then I'm going to add snapshots over here, and then let's view it. So whenever I hover, all right, so you can see this, we are getting this big data image over here. So this is nothing but exactly what we want, which is the link. So now to understand why we are not being able to render the image, but you can see we are getting the right second, it's changing the time, and the image just flashes for a second and goes away. So to fix that, I think we just need to add some styling for that. Let's just remove this console log. We need to add a little bit of styling for the snapshot container and the snapshot images. So let's get on with that as well. So I'm going to open my CSS file over here. I'm going to go down here, and over here I'm going to write the code for the snapshot container first of all. Alright, so a snapshot container will be nothing but it will have a position of absolute, since we want to move it within the video element. It will have an opacity of 0. It will be hidden initially because obviously we want it to be visible only when we hover it, right? And then it will have a display of block, and then a Z index of, we can just give it 1000 because we want this to be on top of the video, shouldn't get hidden behind the video. We're going to give it a width of 150px, so the image will be of the snapshot will be of 150px width, and a height of somewhere around 80px. We'll also give it a bottom of 50px so that it stays above the progress bar and above the time text which we have. And then I'm going to give it a border of, basically I'm going to give it a border of 2px solid white, so that it looks a little bit like in YouTube. So basically I'm kind of trying to replicate YouTube here, the YouTube video player. And then the next part is I'm going to add the snapshot image over here. Yeah, let's just add it for the snapshot image. The snapshot image will be nothing but it will have a width of 100% and a height of 100%. Alright, and after that we need to add for the time, I guess. Yeah, for the time, the snapshot time will be nothing but it will have a white color text. And then after that we can add a font weight of basically 600 to make it look thicker, and we can add a font size of 12px. And the last thing which we need to do is we basically need to access the input element, which is of nothing but type equals to range over here, and then we need to access this hover property, so that every time we hover on the range, currently you can see the opacity and visibility is 0 and hidden, but when we hover we want the snapshot container to have a visibility of visible and opacity of 1. So how we can do that? If this to access this snapshot, all we have to do is plus dot snapshot container, and I'm going to give it an opacity of 1 and a visibility of visible. So let's see if this does the trick. I'm going to refresh, I'm going to hover. Okay, so you can see that the video is, you can see that the snapshot is coming for that particular second. See, you can see the time underneath it, and you can also see that there is a snapshot being generated. So what we need to do next is basically we need to send that video on, basically send that snapshot on top. Okay, so to add the snapshot on top of the progress bar, it's pretty simple. You just have to go to the video container and add the position relative option over here, and after that give a width of 100%. Now why this is necessary is because in the snapshot container, if you go down, you can see that we have a position absolute present over here, so it needs a relative positioning on top of its parent. So now if we go to our browser and if we just hit the refresh button, we can hover on the progress bar, and there you go, we can see that the progress, we can see that the snapshot basically is on top now. So that's working. But now what you can notice is whenever I hover on the progress bar, the snapshot is not moving on top of the mouse, it's always staying centered. The seconds are changing, time is changing, basically the hovered second, but the snapshot particularly isn't on top of the cursor. So how are we going to do that? How do we bring the snapshot on top of the cursor? So let's go ahead and add the code for that. we are just going to go to our index file, and this is pretty basic stuff. We'll just go to our on slider hover function that we have. After we call this shoot function, which goes to the capture and gives us the image. Once all that is done, we're going to go down and we're going to write a if statement. So that's basically going to say if the snapshot ref is present, then we are going to access the snapshot ref dot current dot style. So we're going to access the style of that snapshot container, and we're going to access the left property of the style, and we are going to equate it to e dot client x minus 75 plus we are going to add this as px. So this is pretty basic stuff. All we are doing is to the snapshot container we are setting a left of the e dot client x minus 75 pixels, minus basically 75, and we are adding that we are combining that as a pixel, the value which this returns as px, and that is going to be appended to the left property of the snapshot container. So now if we go and check what we have, I'm going to refresh and I'm going to hover. There you go. You can see whenever I hover, it stays right on top of the cursor. This is exactly what we wanted. So this value can change depending on the width. So for example, if I remove this, you can see what happens. It's not going to be completely aligned. So that's why we just need to add this extra factor over here so that it stays aligned with our mouse. Then now moving on from here, I guess we have completed most of everything that we need to do. So basically, oh yeah, you can see this one thing. We still haven't converted the seconds properly. So for example, if we go to our if I go to our actual build, you can see whenever I hover, we get the proper seconds, like it's 0 and then 11. It's 0:21. But over here, we are getting like 16.34, like 16 seconds directly. We need to add 0 and then 16. So we need it in that format. So how do we do that? So we are basically just going to pass this hovered second to a function, and we are going to convert the seconds into this particular format, this format which you see over here, the 0 and then 00, that format. So let's see how to do that. So basically we can create a function right now. I'm gonna name that function something called maybe calculate time. So let's just go ahead and write that, calculate time, and we're gonna pass hovered second over here. So now we just have to basically create this calculate time function, and over there we can take the seconds and we can convert it respectively. So let's see how to do that. Going to make this an arrow function. And so this is a pretty simple function. We are going to convert it for each hours, minutes and seconds. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do math.floor, and then I'm gonna add the we have forgotten to add the parameter here to be seconds. We're gonna take that seconds and we're gonna convert it to hours. So basically we have to divide by 3600, and once that's done, we can return that. We can call it something called returned hours. If hours is less than 10, then we want it to be displayed as something like this, 0 with a $sign and the brackets, hours. Otherwise we want nothing but just the hours. If it's less than 10, then we just want the hours directly. So we're gonna add that over here. Alright, so we have the returned hours over here, and in the end we are basically going to wrap everything up and return the entire thing to the from the function. By everything up I mean the hours, the time and the seconds. So after this we can do the same for minutes. So minutes will be nothing but math.floor, and then I'm going to basically do seconds by 60, and then I can take the modulus of this and give 60. So this is the minutes, and then we have to also make another function, another variable for the returned minutes. That's going to be nothing but something like minutes, the minutes which we calculated on top. If that's less than 10, then we'll just give the same ternary operator, and we are going to return just the minutes. oops, I forgot to add the 0 behind this, and else that doesn't happen, then we are just going to return the minutes, right? So this is all, we are almost there. We also got to do the same thing for the seconds. For seconds it's gonna be math dot, it's pretty self-explanatory, I guess, pretty basic. For seconds we gotta do the seconds and modulus 60, and then after that we gotta do the same thing. We gotta define return seconds. It's going to remain this from here, and then we're gonna equate it to seconds, seconds, and then if that's less than 10, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just going to copy paste this. You don't have to rewrite this every time, and I'm going to pass seconds over here. All right, there you go. So now we need to add some few conditions that if because ours is not always going to be present there, minutes, this minute and second part is going to be present there, so we have to modify and return from this function based on that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a condition over here. What I'm gonna write here is I'm gonna check for returned hours. If returned hours is greater than equal to 60, then I'm going to return in this format, basically the return hours, and then I'm gonna add the column, and then it's gonna be nothing but return minutes. It's pretty easy and self-explanatory, and then the returned seconds. But in the case where the returned seconds is less than 60, there we have to do something else, right? If the returned seconds is less than 60, then all we have to do is I'll just copy this part because I don't want to keep rewriting all this over and over again. We'll have to pass it like this. We need the 0, and then we'll just add that function, we'll just add that statement, and then else in the end we'll just have to return in the minute and seconds format. So we can just directly copy this, we can pass it right over here, turn. All right, seems like we're good to go. So now I'm just gonna save all this, and I'm going to go to the browser, and I'm going to copy this whole thing. Now if we hover, we should be able to see the proper timings. Let's see. All right, so when I hover now, you can see that I'm getting the seconds directly. I'm not getting it anymore in that decimal format. I get the exact second in the proper formatted way, just like how it's mentioned over here. So all right, we are mostly done 95% with the entire build if you compare it with the original build, but I have added one extra feature here over here down the line. What I have done is, for now, right now you can see whenever I play the video and I leave it, you can see the progress bar doesn't disappear. So that is something we actually require, because the progress bar shouldn't interfere with the video, right? So one thing we need to do is when we have stopped using our mouse, the progress bar needs to disappear. And after that, I've replicated something similar to YouTube, where what YouTube does is, I'm going to go to the full build. What YouTube does is, when we pause a video, it doesn't remove the progress bar, right? Then after that, if we are playing the video and I move my cursor away, like if I stop using my cursor, then after 3 seconds it hides this progress bar. So it's basically something like this: when I play this video and I stop moving, it's gonna hide the cursor, as you saw, and if I pause the video, it's gonna keep the cursor over there, it's not gonna disappear it. So that's what we want to build. So no matter how much I move my mouse or stop it, it's gonna keep the cursor over there because I paused it. But when I play the video and I leave my mouse, after 3 seconds, that progress bar also disappears. But this doesn't happen. And if I hover back on the video, you saw like the whole cursor came back, the entire progress bar basically came back again. I'm gonna show you again. I'm gonna leave, it's gonna go in 3 seconds, it's gone. Now when I hover back, it's gonna come back. And if I leave again, then after 3 seconds, it's gonna disappear again. All right, so this is exactly what we need to build. It's exactly like YouTube. So let's go ahead and build that. That will be the last add-on to this video. So all we have to do for that is, it's pretty simple. We again have to use the events which is provided by the video to us. We can just go down to this to the video element, and here we can add something called on mouse move. Where is that? Alright, it's over here. On mouse move, we can add a function. We can assign this to a function on video hover. Alright, and then we can add an on mouse out, and we can assign a function to this on mouse leave video. So this basically is attached to the video element here. So whenever I hover on the video, this is going to be triggered. When I go out of the video, this is going to be triggered. So now it's going to get pretty easy from here, even you can guess it. So now let's just create both these functions. I'm gonna make it an arrow function again. Let's do the same for the other one. What's the name of that function? On mouse leave video. And now we just have to populate these two functions respectively to hide the to basically hide the progress bar whenever we require. But first of all, we notice that whenever we pause the video, it hides, right? So what we can do is we can go somewhere to the on pause function. Yes, the on pause function is over here. So what we can do here is whenever the pause is hit, we can go and access the progress ref, and we can attach the we can use the basically style.visibility property, and we can make this visible. Alright, so down the line we're going to hide it, but on pause it's always going to be visible. Alright, so that's done. Now what we need to do is, we notice that every time we play the video, we can see that after 3 seconds the progress bar hides, right? So what we can do is we can go to on playing, and over here we need to add some logic. So but first of all, let's declare a variable over here, timeout. So this timeout is required to be declared on top so that it can be cleared later, and so that its reference stays attached. So what I'm going to go is I'm going to go on playing, and then I'm gonna add something over here. I'm going to assign the timeout variable to a set timeout function. I would write set timeout, and then I'm gonna write the function within it, and I'm just going to say progress ref. This I'm going to add this particular line, and I'm going to make it visible, but I'm going to make it visible after 3 seconds. So every time after 3 seconds this statement is going to run. After 3 seconds, so basically whenever we play, after 3 seconds, oh sorry, I should make this hidden, not visible. Yeah, so every time I play after 3 seconds, the visibility of the progress bar should become hidden, and whenever I pause, it should become visible. So let's see what we get until now. So if I play the video and I leave the mouse, you can see it got hidden. And then if I hover back, but if I hover back, you can see that the progress bar isn't coming back, so we need to add that as well. Now if you pause, you can see that the progress bar stays, it doesn't go away. So we are almost like 80% done. All we need to do is when we hover back, we want that progress bar to come back. So let's see how we add that. So for that, I guess we need to start populating the other two functions that we have here, which is nothing but the on video hover and the on mouse leave video. So the on mouse leave video is going to be pretty self-explanatory. We again have to use this, the progress bar visibility, and whenever we leave it, where's the function? Yeah, so basically whenever we leave the video, we want the visibility to be set to visible, and whenever we hover over here, we need to basically first of all clear the timeout which we created, clear timeout, and then we need to assign this timeout again to nothing but a set timeout, and we're going to call a function over here to mouse, which can be named mouse stopped, and we're going to add the number of seconds, and this is basically gonna this timer is going to run for 3 milliseconds, and this function is going to be run within that, and I'm going to write that function soon. And after that we can just set the progress bar visibility to visible, and let's go ahead and write this function now. So this function is going to do nothing but it's just going to check if we are playing or not. So if we are not playing, then we are going to go ahead and we are going to again access the style property and we are going to make it visible. Else all we are going to do is going to access that same style property and we are going to make it hidden. So basically what's happening over here is whenever we hover on the video, we are attaching this timeout. We are populating this timeout variable. We're setting the time for 3000 seconds. So what's going to happen is when I hover over the video, the timeout is going to be set. It's going to get set for a timeout of 3000 seconds, and the progress bar is going to become visible. That's when I hover on the video, right? So then after 3000 seconds, it's gonna go to this mouse stop function, and if the video is playing after 3000 seconds, it's gonna make the style to hidden. Okay, and what if I keep on hovering? So if I keep on hovering, we need to make sure that we always clear that old timeout, because we don't want to work with that. Whenever I hover, we want to attach a new timeout and we want to add the visibility for that particular timeout, for that particular state of reference. So that's why we have to keep on adding, we have to keep on basically clearing the timeout, because we don't want the old timeouts to get stacked upon. And if I am hovering on the video again, it's gonna attach a 3000 second timer. It's gonna make the progress bar visible. Then after 3000 seconds, it's gonna go to mouse stopped, and if our video is paused at that time, then we have to set the visibility to visible. And this is, as we discussed before on YouTube, how they do it. Whenever we pause the video, it always stays visible. So that's why this part. Otherwise, when the video is playing, it's always going to set it to hidden after 3000 seconds. I hope that's why we added this part over here and we are clearing it on top. I hope you understood why I did this. And also I realized that there's one more thing we need to add. So basically on in the on pause function over here, here also we need to be clearing the timeout. Clear timeout, because when we pause, we want that the progress bar should be visible. But when we hover around on the video and when we click on the pause event, so at that time this on pause function is going to be used. So so that clear timeout over there might not get called. So that's why we need to pass the clear timeout function over here in the on pause, so that if in case while hovering there are some timeouts which are not cleared, we need to make sure that all those timeouts are cleared, and then we set the entire progress bar to visible, so that no other timeouts, leftover timeouts, could make it hidden, because all of them would be cleared before that. So I hope you got what I meant. And after this, I'm going to go to the browser. I'm going to refresh the browser and I'm going to start the video so that we can test it. So I'm going to play the video. I'm going to leave my mouse, and you can see after 3 seconds, yeah, the progress bar goes away. Now if I hover back on the video, the progress bar should come back. All right, you can see that it's coming back. Whenever I hover, as long as I hover, the progress bar is going to stay, because it keeps clearing the timeout and it keeps adding it for a time of 3 seconds. Now if I leave it, if I stop my mouse, then it's going to disappear again. And if I pause on the video and I leave, or if I stay also, whenever the video is paused, you can see the progress bar always stays there. It doesn't go away. But the moment I start playing it and I hover a bit or whatever and I leave my mouse, you can see after 3 seconds it goes away. Now if I pause, the progress bar is always going to stay no matter what. And after that, you can also see whenever I hover, you can see the number of seconds and you can see the snapshot for that particular second. So yeah, so that's all this video was about. I hope you got a clear understanding of whatever I explained over here. I'm also gonna attach the link for the code in the description. So if you enjoyed this content and if you would like to see more, then please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. So yeah, that's all for this video.